All right, all right, all right, all right. We are live now. So, ladies and gentlemen, CTO Global Summit, Agentic SDLC, finally here. Wow, I was waiting for this for a long time. And as you can see here in my stream, I have brilliant guests. Let me introduce you guys. Andrew Filev, Zencoder, coding tool, agents that help to code. Probably you will tell more about that when you start your stories. And also we have Rohit Bhardwaj, CTO from Salesforce. Those guys know about sales a lot, and apparently last days about AI. And Artur Shevchenko, he's VP of Engineering at Yalantis. No, Director of Engineering. I'm sorry, I always confusing. Sorry about that.
And this is the same, actually.
The same. Oh, thanks God. Sorry about that. So, those guys know something about Agentic SDLC that most people actually don't. And I'm so happy to have you here with me today, guys. So how are you? What do you feel? Do you feel this energy? I hope so.
Yeah.
Awesome. Absolutely. Ready to roll.
Yeah. All right. The first story will come, or first two stories, I hope, will come from Rohit about AI in sales process automation. But let me probably introduce one co-host of mine today. Sometimes I will pull this co-host in a stream and ask some questions. I hope you don't mind, and I will share my screen over here, and probably you can see. Here we go. Yes, this is ChatGPT, and I asked ChatGPT, can AI actually enhance sales at the enterprise sales teams? And looks like it says yes. Let me zoom in. Lead prioritizations and scoring, personalization at scale, sales forecasting, conversation intelligence, reducing administrative work, and cross sales and upsells. So, is it true, Rohit? Do you think that's a lie or true? Yeah, let's start from there. Does it work actually for sales?
So the way I would say is, first of all, thanks for having me here. So one of the things which I always spend time in is understanding the pain points of the users. And whenever we are talking to any product management or understanding what are the sales having problems with. Now, there is a lot of emphasis on agentic AI. I completely get that. But what are the basics? Like, I say Elon Musk. If you take Elon Musk, what does Elon Musk really do? You go to the first principles. What are the first principles of sales and from the perspective of the user who they are trying to target? They're trying to find out what my customer has problems with. So the first question we are trying to ask is what? And then why this product I'm trying to sell would really help you build this faster. And what do they need now? What are their pain points? And then we also need some way of how to solve this problem. Now, this looks very simple, fundamental principle which is there. So who am I talking to? That's the first thing. I'm talking to a sales representative or revenue operations person who is a seasonal, who's trying to entertainment industry. Let's take one industry because we have to just pick some industry. Entertainment industry, what they're trying to do, they're selling their tickets. So they're trying to come up with different ways to sell the data. Now they are having a lot of pain points. So what I always do is that who am I talking to get their pain points? This has currently nothing to do with the agents, but this is where people actually say, hey, I created an agent. But the first thing, the fundamental question is, who am I helping? That's the fundamental question which comes in. So that means I ask the person, like, hey, what are your problems right now? Fragmented data, ticketing. One system is in ticketing, on one is ERP system, one is CRM system, and there is also a system for operations. There is a separate system. How many systems do we have? Like at least 50 to 100 systems. If you are, it's like a lot of systems are there. So
I'm sorry. I need to interrupt you. People say that something is with your voice quite. It sounds too loud. Maybe you
okay.
can.
I will taper down. Okay.
Maybe you can move the mic a bit from you. Yeah.
All right. How about that? Is it better?
All right. Yeah.
All right. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
That said, the first thing we need to do, understanding the pain points. What's the customer journey looks like? And that's where we always create customer journeys for the user. Now, what happens when we are trying to solve that particular problem? Now we are going to go, hey, what's your journey looks like from morning till evening? Sales reps, what are the things sales rep needs to do? They need to understand, the missed follow-ups. They did some follow-up. They need to follow up. Who do I follow up? So the problem is identifying. The first thing which was there in ChatGPT you saw was identifying what lead should I have. But really, that is a really big problem. They spend a lot of time finding those problems. Now, what they're looking for is, metrics. So we say that, hey, how much revenue should I be able to get from this customer, and how much did they spend last time? But really, what they're really missing out in the whole puzzle is something called as lagging measures. You can measure certain things, like for example CSAT score. You can say, this is my CSAT score, it improved from last year to this year. That's fine. Oh, this person iterate, they just said, sorry, I don't want to use you. It's too late. Now that is the real spark which comes in with the agent. I am so excited about there, which is called lead indicators. Lead indicators. Yeah.
Just to remind, we're here for stories. Yes. Thank you for introduction and sales. And let's move to the first story.
Yeah. So the first story here is that, from this company's perspective, they were having problems getting the data. And that's where the lead indicators comes in play. They were having real problems in finding out what's the sentiment looks like for this customer. When I'm trying to send this email out, based on the sentiment of the customer, are they having a really good time with us, or are they having bad time with us? Those all are, we can get it from the call summaries. That means when you have a call, when you did some call, you are able to get that call summary or from suggestions from the customer. You get that problems, and now you're trying to define this problem and create your own agent to solve this for you. That means you're training an agent to solve soup to nut. That means calling the email, identifying the email, calling the person. That means through email, you can send an email to them, and then responding, get the response, get them going, get the response going with them. Now, when we do that whole activity we did, this is where, the sales reps used to spend a lot of time. Now, what did we do? We automate the whole process. Now, we have 9,000 email automatically going out as an agent. So that means what we did was we trained the agent to deliver the emails. Now, the most important thing is...
Just again, how many thousands of emails do you guys send?
So the plan is to send 25,000 emails.
Oh, and what do you have right now? What do you have right now?
Right now it's like all through manual steps. Now we automated that. So 25,000 emails are going out through different regions. Let's say you have a US region, Europe region, you would be creating a separate email structure for them, what they need to get. Now the advantage here is the email is created. Now, initially, you need human in the loop to make sure the email looks good. There is no hallucination. There is no sensitive actions you're trying to do. So that's where you need to build a trust the trust and the guardrails have to be created. So I call it agentic development is very fast. I call it, when we started doing our development, it was 2 sprints. If we completed our development, now the process of improving the prompt comes in play. Now, based on the human in the loop, we are improving the prompt to make sure that we put the guardrails, put the PII masking, making sure that it is actually be able to solve for selling as an agent. Now,
Okay.
that's the perspective which is completely making it easier. What do I need to track at any given time? So this is the development. SDLC lifecycle have changed now. SDLC lifecycle is you have a faster coding. Now when we are in the QA environment or UAT environment, that's where we are doing human in the loop. We are trying to build our relationship to make sure, just like an agent, we are training an agent. Hey, do this, do that. Just like a child, it takes time to understand that. That process is 4 to 6 weeks.
Right. And let's get back to the business you actually worked for. So how it impact the business? Did they fire salespeople, or they sold more and increased the revenue? Yeah, how it worked actually out?
So this is where I would like to just quote one person here. AI isn't taking all the jobs, but it's taking all the tasks it can help us solve efficiently. So what we did was we warmed the lead. Warming lead takes time, but now I hand over that lead to a human agent through a scheduler. These are the slots available. Now the real person can schedule the call. Now that can be taken by the real person. Before the person is talking to them, now this is another agent, interesting agent which we build, because we need to train the sales rep to talk to the customer. Before they talk to the customer, what are the points they should talk to? How are they talking? Are they talking too fast? What are the objections which can happen during the sale when we are trying to do final sale? All those practice can be done just like the way we are talking right now. We are calling it avatar, like we're calling a sales coach. Salesforce has something called sales coach, which is doing just like a live, we are speaking, the avatar is speaking to us as a customer, asking us questions. And that is another way. Now we are increasing our revenue share, because now what we are doing is we made us confident. So there are 3 elements to this. I call it 3 elements you have to have in place. 1, predictive. 2, assistive. The 3rd, autonomous. Predictive. What's the next best lead I should work on? Assistive. How to handle this call really well through sales coach. Autonomous, through SDR agent, which I created like for few major companies we created there. Now this is where here is the renewal follow-up. Hey, I want to renew this data. How about I have an agent do it for me? Or look at the sentiment. Based on the sentiment analysis, now I have an agent to follow up, to automatically increase their sentiment. The customer is not happy. What can we do to make them happy? To increase their score. By the way, their score is really good, but recently, due to their conversation, we find out from social and other places, it is going down. Predictive. That's where the predictive comes in play. Now, what actions to take would be on top of it. So there are 3 things which we need to master in this agentic area: predictive, autonomous, and assistive. Once we do that, now we have a full package with human in the loop. So to answer your question, we would be able to do our job. The salespeople will be able to do their job much more efficiently by following the agentic framework.
Okay, so from those 2 stories, first story, as I understood, is AI actually performing some warming up work, right? And once the lead is warm, it signals to the human sales rep, right? And the human actually steps in the game and sell and close and communicate. Am I right on that? If I am right, what were the measures of success of that, and how did they grow those measures, or didn't grow? Like,
Yes.
how did it go? Yeah.
Yeah. So what really happened, measurable, is upsell increased by 20% right away, because your upsell is increasing. Because you're looking at the sentiment of the person. That's the lag measure. We found out that increased. That was really good. Renewal close rate also increased by 10%, which was a great thing. We were able to find renewals are coming in, and we are able to do that. But the most exciting part of the journey is that now we are able to do the lead measures. That means we are able to speed up to lead. Like when the lead is there is something called lead score. You're scoring that person, scoring that customer. Now, how can I increase the lead without any human intervention? We are able to do so. That was 40%, like 20 to 40% we have seen, has improved. So that's where the customer profiles overall, what do we know about this customer? That improved by 30%. So that is where now we are coming in, and then looking at the objections which are coming in. Now, this is a continuous loop, by the way. Continuous loop for improvement. Now you're looking at the objection handling and see how AI can coach better the sales agent who's doing the final close, be able to do that. So it's basically taking into account both the lag measures. I started with the lag measures and lead measures. A lot of people just stop at the lag measure. And that is the real problem they always face. They say, hey, CSAT score has just improved by this much. No, while the CSAT score is going down, you acted on it. That's where the action comes in play. So in Salesforce and other agentic areas, which I'm more excited is not a dashboard. How many here say yes in the chat window? You have seen, a dashboard. Dashboards. How many here have a lot of dashboards you create? Say I in the chat window. But they do any effect? Did they do anything? You're just creating. I create this report every week. Maybe somebody's looking at it. So instead of that, you create something called a calculated insights. So that's a specific term. You calculate and you say that what's the lead score? Is the trending going down or up? If the trending is going down, what action an agent can take now automatically to improve that score, to improve their experience. And that is where the lead measures really helps us. This is what I'm so excited about this journey.
Wow.
Is creating the calculated insights. Now I'm acting on top of the data.
Wow. I wished actually AI increased my sales by like 22 or 40 or whatever you say percent. That would be, I can imagine the scale actually, and the volumes on the scale that companies actually can receive using that. But
no, it's a problem. It is the biggest problem. When we started with let's face it, you are creating an agent. How many emails you can send if you are a Google user? I'm talking technically. Now, this is a technical perspective. You all know that. It's close to 1,800 emails. You cannot send more than that per day. Otherwise, you are a spam. Wow. You are a spam. You're calling us a spam. Yeah. Same thing. Microsoft is around 9,000 emails. So now you can grow that. How can we do the grow? We use Microsoft one place and another place Google. We created multiple agents per region. And that's the way you get the growth out of it. You have different segmentation. Instead of one agent solving for the whole company, now we are focused on one market, French market. Let's solve for their problems, customized solution for them. Same thing is to New York market, customized solution for them. And that brings completely different view to the whole thing.
All right, thank you very much. But what was it smooth actually from the beginning? Any lessons learned, any mistakes, because it's always good to talk about the success, growing numbers, all that, but we all know that actually what it means actually. So what lessons, what mistakes, whatever you can share with our audience who actually planning, and obviously your figures you're sharing are tempting, and that's insane. So if I can actually implement AI in my sales process and get those increased numbers, well, but what should I avoid? Yeah.
So number one, and people make this mistake all the time. The first thing is that you have a child. That child is going on the road. What do? Always be on the walkway. That's the first thing you tell. Yes. And those are called as guardrails. I can call it as a guardrail. So the way I think about it is like people try to create this agent without agent manager. So that's the first thing. First tip I would always give is always create as a lesson for us also is who is your best salesperson. Who's in your company, there's always in the company, there's the best salesperson, one or two people, like we all know, like those people. Yeah. They are the agent managers. Now we are employing these autonomous agent. I'm talking, we are employing this autonomous agent as a direct report. They're directly reporting in the hierarchy to these top sales agent or service agent, whatever agent you're trying to create. So we created, this one is sales perspective. So who's the best person? Now they are agent managers. That's number one. If we just do that, clean ownership of data quality comes in play. Who is saying that, hey, this is the data which is coming to me? Now, this is another biggest problem which we faced when we started working on this. Data for the same customer is there in 50 different places. There is no customer 360 available for them to use. Now, this is a problem. Why? Because customer has some problem. It's stored in one system. How I look at customer 360 and which email should I use to track them is a big problem. Can they use guest checkout? If they use guest checkout, can we identify who these are the same people or not? And that is where customer 360-degree view comes in play. Now, Data Cloud in Salesforce does that. Snowflake helps out with that initiative. Now, what that means is that we face this problem. Consent policy is a big problem which is there in this. So person has to consent. Yes, I want to use this sales email coming to me. Now this SDR agent in sending an email out, what if they send that I don't want to receive this email? You would have to honor it.
Right.
You see, there's a real problem. This is like a real situation happening, and and that's another thing which comes in. The third part, which is always a big problem, is latency. So latency, P99. What does user feel is very important. Now we are coming up with pre-computing the data. People say, hey, I'll use ChatGPT. How many here wait for anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds to get ChatGPT answer? How many here do that? Yeah, pretty much everyone is doing it. You're not pre-computing the data ready to go in a cache. Now that is a newer pattern which is coming in, which is like latency improvement pattern which is coming in. So that's another part which is there. And then the last part I would say, which is really important, is FinOps. FinOps means you need to create budget prompts. Like you're selling the product. Now, there is a crazy thing happening. SDR agent is sending it to a chat agent. Can you do that? Technically, can you do that? Yeah. You can have one agent after their warm is done, and exciting stuff I'm working on. I'm talking like something in the future, which is something is coming. You're warming that, they warmed up. Now at that point of time, you route that to a chat bot or chat agent, which will now be able to do financial booking for them. While they're doing the financial booking, you can use FinOps. like, budget prompts, like, hey, how much should be the money I need to spend here? So that's where, once you do that, now you're putting in, like, all the perspective to make it easier for us to use.
Right. So I really love this structure. So let's get back and actually repeat all these problems. So the first problem was, could you please remind? Because
clean ownership is
right.
not there. Like agent manager, you have to have an agent manager for everything what you do.
Right. Then data.
Data
because it's scattered, right?
Customer 360, or need to use product 360, or some way. You are not the only product you are selling.
Right.
You're selling your product along with another product. If you go to Amazon, you find out you're buying a bike. You also get the helmet. You're not manufacturing helmet, but that's called linked data is coming in, and this is where you get that data. And you can sell based on that data, grounding the data for the bike.
And third, yeah.
And then use it. Number 3 is latency. You're going to have problems with latency. And then unless you pre-compute the data, you are able to pre-compute this data. Once the data is pre-computed in the data cloud or Snowflake and data cloud, and that means it's ready to go as a vector database, vectorized database, you can call it. Okay. Now you're retrieval augmented generation on the questions the user is asking.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and fourth, the next one, the FinOps, right?
FinOps, yeah. So FinOps is another part which is coming in. Like, when we are trying to work on this solution, now you're looking for different ways to sustain, like, how you make the money, like, money. So
absolutely. And I actually loved another one, the ethical aspect. So we need to actually respect what user wants, right?
Yes, user wants certain amount of data. Like, now that's where that's where the perspective comes in. Like, now I'm looking for, let me ask a different perspective here. Like, I'm looking for a bike. If somebody gives me, and this is what's happening right now in the RAG places, like, all the RAGs are created, they have problems on that regard. Somebody wants to get, okay, let me get, a bike. When I'm looking at a bike, somebody give me also, hey, you can also buy a car. No, I'm not looking for a car right now. So really, that's what's happening in the knowledge area nowadays. When the retrieval augmented generation, everybody's saying this is awesome, like this is giving us the data, is giving us, okay, there is in computer, there is something called garbage in, garbage
out.
Yeah, it's like garbage in, garbage out. So you creating this knowledge, you're putting some junk out there and you're calling it as a knowledge.
Absolutely.
The problem is, the real problem, the core of the problem is that people think that it's perfectly fine. No, you have to create the chunks, knowledge chunks, which are useful chunks. And then another thing which we did, like, which is an advanced thing which you can do on top of that, is graph RAG. You can apply for a given chunk. I'm talking at a high level. Let's say a document is there. You have a big document of 100 pages. Those 100 pages document, you're going to create chunks of different segments, and then while you're creating those chunks, you say, for this chunk is solving for this problem. This chunk is solving for these 5 questions. Right. This chunk is solving for these 5 questions. Now this is called as reverse questionnaire.
Okay.
Reverse questionnaire. Now this is advanced RAG which you can add on top of this. Now what's happening is your chunks are there. You can overlay the chunks also. Like, you have a document, you want to make sure that relevant chunks are there. You can prepend some tags in the beginning of the chunks. Hey, you're talking about this product, bike. You're talking about bike, and XLR bike, which I'm talking about. And for that, this is what the chunk is. This chunk is answering these 3 questions. And if the 3 chunks are answering the same question, now you have better answers. And now that answer can be used by all 3 agents: predictive, to predict, autonomous agent and assistive agent to solve the puzzle for us.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely the case where AI can increase sales is more, hot and interesting than the case that where you train sales representatives on agents with all this stuff. Anyway, so I feel like you have bunch of information. You know what you do. You have this
Every second,
experience.
yeah.
And I remember you could actually offer the workshop on that, how to implement AI in that. So can we expect anything like that from you? Because so many questions.
Absolutely. So I have I'll share my workshops with you. There are around 12 workshops which I have on the AI and the agents. How the APIs we are developing is completely changing how we are developing the APIs. So I will share with you, and then we can talk on that. But the main thing is enterprise architecture. So like looking at from the enterprise architecture lens, what things are changing. So we have a block of frameworks which we can talk. I created my own framework on that because the TOGAF is not fully going to solve for AI. That's the way I would call it. TOGAF is heavy duty. So we want. So I used to do TOGAF kind of, analysis, like, hey, what will happen in next 3 years or something, and this is where, one of my friend, he came along, Elon Musk, he worked for Elon Musk as a CIO. So he was telling me his story. Rohit, Elon came along and, he was saying that in 2013, this was a story from 2013. So he came along and said, look into this browser. I want the car here and then I want a checkout button. And he's like, what are you talking about? There's no one in between. It's like, no, there's no one in between. Like this whole thing is going away. I just want one button. So my friend knew that he got only 3 months to survive here because like Elon Musk say, like, you're cutting all the, dealership routes are all gone. There's no middleman in between. Like you just come and you just browse. And he did that. Like by the way, he survived for 5 years with him. So
wow.
that's a good thing. So the way I think about this problem is agents. People are saying agents are going to take away the whole world. They need a driver. You need a driver. And once you put the ethics in place, and that's why I like Elon in terms of ethical perspective on it. I like the fact that, you want to build a solution. You want to make money. You're not just building for charity. Like, anybody who's doing for charity is a good thing. But I would say make money, but try to be ethical. Ethical means like there are a lot of perspective can happen. Predictive, when we are saying predicting, or sometime automatic firing. You don't want an automatic firing agent, for example.
I don't want actually automatic firing too. No. Thank you very much. Rahul, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's very interesting, very deep conversation, but we are kind of running out of time. Let me please pull up my guests here. I'm sure they have some questions to you, and also I would ask to be very short on answers, to go straight to the point if it's possible. Sure. Guys, Artur, Andrew, and I see Rahul on my backstage too. Rahul, if you are ready, you can turn the camera and sound on, and ask if you have any questions to Rohit about this AI in sales process automation thing he shared.
No, exciting area. Oh, definitely a lot of action there.
All right. Go ahead with your question.
That probably was just a comment. Okay. Artur, anything to add, or we should probably move on? Let me.
No, not from my side. Yeah.
Yeah. So you are totally agree that 30% increase in upsell is great, right? Who doesn't? Yeah,
I'm into that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rohit, for this sharing. It's a very emotional but still deep conversation. And yeah, now we are moving to Andrew. And we know each other for some time, not too long, not for many years, but some months. But I really love Zencoder actually. I do vibe code. Right now, I'm vibe coding my Giggle platform. I want to move to a new platform, and of course, I use Zencoder until I'm off the credits, and then I move to someone else, as everyone does.
Well, we'll talk about it today, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, let's do it. And I saw you guys actually connected more models to Zencoder, so I can switch inside, right? So, yeah, please give us a few words about like what do you guys do, and we are expecting also about stories. We're talking about AI augmented dev teams for enterprises. Yeah, so I'm
We're
sure
gonna
you
go
have some cool.
pretty hardcore. I'll actually do something that I usually don't do in this kind of talks. I'll pull up some slides just because I want us to go
Yeah,
pretty
go on.
fast.
Sure.
So a little bit of a personal background. I've been building software products all my adult life. Zencoder is obviously the best and the latest. The one before was a company called Reich. I built it to more than 1,000 employees, sold it for more than $2 billion, category defining product. So that went great. I was also early advisor, seed investor in Miro, another category defining product. So, and through all that career, I observed their immense value of engineering, and also within that, immense value of velocity. So kind of, and I observed it both from the business level. Like to me, velocity is one of the most important predictors of success. If you got the right people, the next one is kind of the pace at which they're moving. And by the way, in AI, the tempo is insane. Like any of you who are shipping products in AI and AI enabled, AI first, it's crazy. Like I think I've done some good work before, and now it's kind of that whole new level. So if
Next
you're here
level,
in this call,
absolutely.
yeah, if you're here on this call, you probably care about that. Otherwise, why bother, right? So we'll talk about kind of what's realistic and not realistic to expect from AI and how to squeeze most of it. So
Let's do
we have
it.
thousands of customers. I talk to VPs of engineering every day, and I'm also very deep into our own company's engineering. So some of the examples that I'll share, I'll kind of open up the kimono and talk about ourselves because we could be the most open. There's some stuff I could talk about customers, but for us, I know exactly what I can and cannot share. So I'll tell you kind of about our transformation as well. So let me dive in here real quick. Share screen, window, boom, and slideshow.
And we can see it, of course.
Awesome, wonderful. So I'll start with something interesting and spicy. So for me, one of their biggest predictors today of how much value you're deriving from AI is, to some people surprisingly, but if you think about it, it's kind of obvious. It's actually their spend that you have on AI per engineer, and I see a huge variance in that. So this is statistics from one of my engineers for the month of August. He, what I would call, burned through 3.5 billion tokens in that month, and their true API cost of that, including their 10x discount on the cash, it was around $11,000. So that's per one engineer per month.
Per one engineer.
Per one engineer per month. And so that's so today we're gonna talk about where the heck did all that inference go? What's he doing that you might or might not be doing, right? And then bonus track, we're also gonna tell how I, as our CEO of the company, only spent $200 on that $11,000 worth of inference. So that could come handy as a trick for you. So this goes back to your question of like, hey, I was hitting the limits, right? So now I have to juggle a bunch of tools. So I'll share update from yesterday on how you could save yourself from all that juggling. So Again, if I look at the market, there's kind of several price points. There's a certain group of people who spend $0 to $20. I can tell you that in sort of vibe coding, if you're a student doing some prototypes, whatever, building simple websites, that can actually get you somewhere. If you're working with production grade complexity repositories, usually it doesn't get you much. It's like basic code completion is all you can expect, and kind of corresponding productivity improvements. Then there's a whole group in the market of people who spend, again, plus or minus about $40 a month, $50 a month. And there are different reports that have been done on the productivity gain, kind of averaged at around 20%. Now, what's interesting and what I have observed in real life is that for simpler tasks, simpler repositories, that productivity gain could actually be much higher, and vice versa. For their complex tasks on complex repositories, that productivity gain can actually be zero. So I'm not saying that everybody who spends $50 gets a 20% gain. I'm just saying on average, and by the way, again, this is very high variance, that averages around 20%. But what's interesting is that a lot of those people think that they're on cutting edge of AI, and that they know kind of, they have, how to say it, they squeezed most of what they could squeeze from agents, if you will, right? They're like, yeah, and then some of them will be like, yeah, they're great. Some of them will be like, no, that stuff doesn't work for me, right? But they think they're kind of there, and in reality, they're not. And then there's what I would call AI first process, where I think their 2x productivity improvement is possible today. I'm not saying everybody gets it, right? But I'm saying it is possible. And in our organization, we went through that transformation, and we observed that. And this is where you're at least kind of there on paper, token burn could get you to pretty high spend. We'll talk about how to get there, the best practices. And we'll also talk about kind of what's next around the corner of where this thing is going, and how I think some organizations and some individuals will be able to go beyond 2x in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. So one quote that I like to share here is that, if you always do what you've always done, you'll get the same results. Or this was attributed to Henry Ford, or as you know, there's a similar quote attributed to Einstein about the definition of insanity. But basically, when people don't change how they do things, it's very strange from them to expect to get 2x or 10x productivity improvement. That's not how it works. There is a cost to that improvement, and there's an effort to that improvement. And the other quote that I like here is that, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And this is what we internally experienced, and this is what we're also kind of seeing from a lot of customers. So it's hard because changing habits, it's hard. For example, engineers, senior engineers who've been doing this for 10, 15 years, they like to work how they work, right? They don't necessarily want to change their work style, and instead of writing code, write specs. It is messy in the middle because you gotta learn on your mistakes. It's a skill, you gotta build it, and you also gotta build support and structure in your own organization with different documentation and processes and whatnot. Documentation for AI, I mean, not documentation for the sake of documentation. Which, by the way, Ed, I think you have a product that can help there. And then gorgeous in the end is that as a founder of the company, I love seeing that acceleration, and also as a creator, as a builder, just personally, like put the money aside, put the business aside. I get the joy from taking my ideas and turning them into something that brings value to real people. And so, more pace, more joy, if you will. So I'll talk about this system. Now, one, I don't claim that this is the only way to do this. This is the way that works for us internally in the company. Second, I don't claim that it's a secret thing that nobody knows about. That's not how best practices work. The best practices are the one that kind of emerge in the industry and shared across multiple people who arrive to them from different perspectives, and who there's slight variance, but again, sooner or later it kind of stabilizes. And I've seen this 2 decades ago with Agile. I was at the frontier of Agile. I was working at the team who back in the day used what now most people don't even know about, extreme programming, right? I was one of the first adopters of Scrum. So I saw that kind of Agile emergence. And there is a good parallel there because Scrum works as a system. Those of you who kind of were early in those implementations, you know that if you try to cherry pick 2 best practices from Scrum and apply them on your existing process, it doesn't necessarily take you very far. As opposed to if you deploy the whole system and transform the way you work and how you think about that, then you actually could move twice as fast. And so I'm seeing the same thing here where, yes, some people kind of cherry pick this stuff. But for me personally, when I vibe coded stuff for production and for our engineering organization as a whole, sometimes that cherry picking fails. Well, like you go halfway and get nothing, as opposed to kind of going all the way and getting everything. So the system, again, this is why I want to use slides, because I want to run fast. That we could talk for probably at least an hour plus an hour Q&A on this thing, and I want to kind of be able to to compact it in 20 minutes for you. So it starts with spec-driven development, where it's basically two-phase process. First, you create the spec for some unit of work, and second, you use AI to execute that step. Now, one misconception would be to think that first step is on you, the second step on AI. It would be wrong for both steps. Both steps are collaborative. So we use AI very heavily when we create those specs. And we also, as humans, play a key role in execution. I'll start with later. For example, I learned through mistakes and pain that it's actually, at this point, this will change. This will change very soon. But as of today, on complex production repos, it's better to observe agents through the whole trajectory step by step, as opposed to let them rip in you only live once mode and then kind of just review the whole diff. I've been personally in a situation where I kind of vibe coded something for, I think, a couple of days on and off. And it all was beautiful, and then it stopped working, and I didn't review the kind of the detailed progress, and the code was foreign to me. And so the natural bias at that point is to let agent fix the issue, and the agent was like just running in circles, and I wasted hours on that, as opposed to if I kept a better eye on the progress one, I would have spotted the issue earlier. And second, if I didn't spot it and the issue arose, I would much quicker kind of assist the agent and put it on the right track, as opposed to, again, just kind of going in circles and circles. So I do recommend that, again, there's human, on both phases, and I do recommend heavy use of AI in both. So if I go back to the first step, I'll talk more about it in a second, but there is heavy use of deep research, be it kind of formally defined deep research agents in the internet, or kind of your own prompts on your own repos. I do believe in progressive utilization of the spec. I'll show it to you in a second. And I have my own theory about how and why this works. That goes to kind of fundamentals, if you will. So most of you have heard about this best practice in prompting called chain of thought. Most of you have heard about it being taken to the next level with what's called inference time compute, or you heard the term reasoning models, right? And that was kind of the big breakthrough in AI. But basically, you're letting the model to think through stuff before it either executes or produces an answer, and that kind of allows it to use more compute and gives you better result. And the good metaphor is kind of like you playing chess, right? And you can just move the pieces, right? Or you can try to think a couple of steps ahead, and usually the later will give you a better result. And so with spec-driven development, it's basically that on steroids, because you're using a lot of compute to build the spec, and you're also mixing your own human compute into that process. So it takes that to completely new different level that's not available for the models themselves. And so for the good, for us, again, in our system, and yours might be different, the spec is built progressively, first with high-level requirements. So if it's a new feature, it's going to be closer to kind of PRD style. If it's a refactoring, it could talk about about it on the more technical level, but still kind of that kind of a why and high-level what. And that's where deep research comes in. Then there's kind of high-level implementation details so that agent would stay on track. And in this case, again, this is where deep research on your own code base with your prompts really helps to ground the spec into either existing interfaces or the new ones that are to be created. And you describe the data model, you describe the control flow. So whatever you would tell to your peer, so say you had a junior developer working on this stuff, and you want to give them as much guardrails as possible in that technical description so they could stay on track and do what you want as opposed to something else. So that's the second step. And again, it's not you writing that word by word, it's you prompting AI to help you do that. And then the last is you take those things and you ask AI to turn it into step-by-step plan. So that's good spec for me. And then the second phase execution is you're using agents to execute it step by step. And this helps you work around one of the big issues is that despite all the benchmarks and all that noise, agents are still getting progressively worse on longer trajectories. And so versus if you have that spec, you can basically execute that step, every step by a fresh agent. Just feed it the whole spec and say, hey, go and proceed and do the step 2. So that gives it fresh context and reset, and they're able to execute things much better. That's the first. Second, everything we do is test-driven development. So AI first sub-step in that step is to write failing tests. Second step is to implement the solution, and then lint and test, including the whole suite of tests that you have. Which brings us to the third component. It's I call it observability. I don't know if it's the right word for this context, but it's very important to give agent the tools to self-correct. That was the whole revolution that took us from code completion to agentic coding today. It's like giving the agents access to Bash, letting them see what they're doing with Playwright and things like that, where they can observe what they're doing and give them the chance to detect their mistakes and give them the chance to troubleshoot their mistakes. The models and agents are not yet good with debugging, so you have to go harder on stuff like telemetry and logging. Again, more detailed tests and integration tests. But if you give the agents that observability, and the more they have, then they can self-diagnose and self-correct. So for me, a big part of prompting is just making sure that that observability is built in. And this, by the way, is my first step. If I'm asked to code a new repo, I would first make sure that I would run the agents to build the right documentation for it and to build the right observability for it before I attempt any autonomous agentic operation, because then it'll be kind of like throwing dice. And then there other interesting observation for us is that kind of like, again, this is law of averages. I'm not saying it's about individual, but the more you pay, the better results you get, right? It's like I think we're all typically expect better performance from staff engineer than from junior, and we typically expect to pay more to a staff engineer than to a junior. And with models, it's kind of the same. Now they're like some and so kind of some deviations from that rule, right? But in general, bigger models, they use more compute and they have more ability to internally transform information and figure out the right patterns and do multi-step reasoning. But because they're bigger, they work slower and they cost more. And so for example, in our own company, currently, the guideline is to use Opus 4.1 for all development, which is 5 times more expensive than Sonnet, which is typically 2 times more expensive than GPT-5, which is typically 2 times more expensive than Grok, but still we use the most expensive model to do the work because we feel that it's still cheaper than the cost of either errors that are going to be missed or human correction that needs to be done, or the downstream kind of maintenance effect on the work that we're doing. So since I mentioned cost, and again, I started this conversation with cost and giving you that example, and Ed, you kind of even preempted me saying like you hit the limits here and there. Yesterday, we announced something super cool. So our product has many different faces, but one of those faces is you can use it in your favorite IDE, VS Code, JetBrains. You go there, beautiful UI, UX, everything works. Now, many of you have a paid subscription to ChatGPT, most people who I kind of see in professional setting, they do have paid ChatGPT subscription. Some of you have paid Anthropic subscription. And both of those tools have their own CLI, command line interfaces, that allow you to use your subscription and run some AI through that. So this is different from going to the web browser for ChatGPT, or even going to desktop client for ChatGPT. There's a command line tool called Codex, which you can connect to your ChatGPT account and run some AI through that command line tool. Well, guess what? We took our beautiful UI UX and we now allow you to connect it to your Codex tool, or to your Claude tool, or coming up next, Gemini. And that allows you to use your subscription, which you're already paying for those tools, right? So you're not paying anything extra inside of Zencoder, in addition to whatever inference you buy from us. And that's pretty cool, because both OpenAI and Anthropic, they heavily subsidize those subscriptions. So for example, I was a ChatGPT Pro subscriber from day one, $200 a month, and Sam Altman was publicly telling everybody that on average, I believe he said ChatGPT Pro at that time cost them 10 times more. So I was paying OpenAI $200, and on average, me and my buddies cost OpenAI $2,000, right? And Cloud Code is similar. So that example was $10,000+ of inference that was done using Zencoder and Cloud Code, and Cloud Code was used with a $200 monthly subscription, which is pretty neat, because at their CTO level, VP of engineering level, it's much easier to deal with subscription pricing as opposed to variable API pricing, where one day an engineer can spend $20, another day an engineer can spend 2,000. I think all of us kind of sleep better if we understand what's our AI budget and can just deploy that and be happy. And then we have so that's the 2x process, where you go from occasional AI use.
I'm sorry, just to interrupt you. Do I get it right? So now I don't have to pay course, or I don't know, GitHub Copilot, Zencoder, and all those guys to get those credits, and then switch between all of you. I just can. I'm on Gemini, right, mostly, and I just kind of connect my Gemini, and I can actually vibe code until they stop me, and they will not, because they sponsor us with those credits. So actually I have Gemini 2.5 Pro connected to Zencoder, like top level agents, and voila. Am I getting it right, man?
Exactly. That's the thing, right? And you might say, what's in it for us? So there's Zencoder has multiple plans, and for what you describe is absolutely correct. You can use free plan from Zencoder, connect it to your Codex, so Cloud Code or Gemini, and vibe code yourself to greatness, right? Now where we come in is, if you're a larger shop, we still could deliver you tremendous value on top of that. So we have multi-repo indexing for large amount of repos. We have stuff like ability to run autonomous agents in your CI, build complex pipelines there. So for an enterprise-grade customers, there's still incredible value that we can bring on top of that. But if you're just starting your startup and counting every dollar, this is a great entry point. And if you're enterprise, wow, you're still counting dollars. It's much easier to pay $50 to Zencoder for all the advanced capabilities and $200 to Cloud Max, as opposed to with Cursor. I can give you real life examples of when people had like $2,000 weekly bills. So wow, I feel it's a great value prop.
Absolutely. So you're disrupting it, actually, because you're given the sweet spot actually for free, like the vibe coding itself, and upsell to companies like additional, really valuable but additional stuff. Wow.
Yeah,
I love it.
Exactly. I love it. That's a brand new thing, right? So this is because Codex only announced it 2 weeks ago. And so and we basically we launched it yesterday. I believe it's the first platform of its kind, and that was support of Codex, Cloud Code, Gemini. So brand new, and I do think that the whole industry is going to change. Now, it's not going to change overnight, because most people don't know about it yet. But yeah, show me a person who would prefer to pay $2,000 over $50.
No. So you know what I'm gonna do after this stream, right? Maybe not even editing this video, but I'll go and try it out. No, you don't have Gemini yet. Well, yeah, I'll wait.
Gemini is coming very soon. Yeah, it is coming.
I'll wait.
But I'm sure you have ChatGPT or Claude.
Okay. Sorry for interrupting because it was not really clear for me. I wasn't believing my ears actually.
You should. Again, it's coming. Gemini, we're already testing it, so it's going to be out there very soon. So that system took us from that 20% productivity gain to roughly plus or minus, again, high variance, but I would say 2x. And then in terms of taking it further, what's going to happen, in my opinion, kind of again for those advanced organizations that continue to push those boundaries as their best practices improve and as models improve and as tools like Zencoders improve, right? It takes all three to dance. I like to think of it as like two people walking hand in hand. Like one person can have a step forward and then another can do, or another person can have a step forward and the first person catches up, right? But no person can jump that step ahead if they're holding hands. So same goes between engineering best practices and sort of tooling. This AI first that I'm telling you is only possible if you change the process. But it's also only possible if you have the right tools and if you have the right models. And so I feel it kind of goes hand in hand. Some of the people, like vibe coders, push the industry a lot. People who actually don't know how to code because the only choice was to use AI, right? And so as opposed to for principal staff engineer, they don't need AI to be great. And so they would try a little bit and then go back to the old way. So that's where it's kind of a joint dance. But anyways, the step beyond 2x, one is their parallel execution of agents. And in fact, that picture that I've shown you is 10 grand spend. That engineer is kind of already there because some of those days he was running 4 parallel execution tracks. He's good at the process, and so at that moment when you start running multiple agents, you get that increased productivity. The other step is improving their automated pipelines. I feel the key component there is self-verification, as the agents will be able to check their work better and better. And that again goes back to models and us as tool providers. We will have a big improvement there, and models again continue to improve as well. So as that self-verification improves, you can put more and more autonomously. And we have customers today like Automation Anywhere that puts into their continuous integration process autonomous agents, and we internally do as well. And that obviously is a big unlock. Where you could be sleeping and the agents do the work for you. So we have autonomous code review agent in our pipeline. We have autonomous agent where our PMs could tag simple tickets in Jira, and the coding agent will pick it up. And then the beautiful part is when they start piping, and you got a coding agent and then you got a review agent all kind of executing in one pipeline. So with that, I'll probably stop the slides. There's more, but I think I covered the most interesting stuff from there.
Well, definitely, it was interesting for me to hear how I can cut my costs actually. But coming back to stories, coming back to something you experience with clients about changing the paradigm and shift this approach to actually developing. I remember you mentioned one client who actually saved, I don't know, you said kind of 18 months of development because they were using those agents, reworking legacy stuff to microservices or something like that. So we definitely here for stories, and I would love to hear some.
Yeah, I can go both kind of on their upbeat stories and then some on kind of lessons learned, right? So on the upbeat side, people have multiple aha moments with the platform. One of them is we have end-to-end testing, and in my previous business, pre-AI era, we had 30,000 automated tests written by humans and maintained by humans. But that allowed us to ship multiple builds a day. Going back to Dora metrics and how you measure all this stuff, right? Like we had multiple deployments a day. So with AI, the more code you generate, the more code needs to be tested, and developers don't necessarily like doing that. And I just walk you through my core principle is that observability and test-driven development is one of the key components of making AI work, right? So the testing component is extremely important, and so we have our customers being super happy with that that testing component, and also internally, one of their we kind of shifting our QA team from manual testing to the team that supports internal agents that help write and maintain the tests for engineers, so that engineers right now are required to not only provide automated tests with every commit, every PR, I should say, not commit, every PR. And then another interesting kind of internal best practice that we did that has nothing to do with AI. We now require engineers who change any kind of user experience to record the video of the change and include it in PR to make it easier to review for the reviewers. But it also keeps that discipline there that we want to make sure that, again, we're big believers in AI and in humans. We're not either or. And so for us, it's important that as we use more AI, we're also kind of evolve the role of engineers.
Do you mean the screen recording and explaining what happened? Do you mean that?
Yeah, just the degree of explaining could be we're not trying to create like our TV show there, right? It's just a quick recording, like hey, I changed this from this to this, and this is how it works. So that on one hand make reviewers' job much easier because again they focus on their end experience rather than just on like blind bits and bytes. That also puts the discipline just another level to encourage engineers to actually test what they're doing and connects it closely to automation testing. And then we hope that this is not there yet, but we hope that with multimodal system like Gemini, we can integrate that as part of our code review process, where the agent will kind of observe their expected behavior, and then it'll be able to write some visual testing through Playwright and compare with what it's quote unquote seeing. So again, as we deploy more of those agents, we also change how we work and even kind of rewriting the mandates for the whole departments like QA. And then in terms of other customer stories, yeah, I mentioned some customers are very excited about those ability to drop agents in CI, and because that's unique capability. Some customers love. We have this platform capability called Zen Agents, where you can share agents across the organization. Remember how I told you?
Yeah, I heard about that. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like our QA team writing agents that then all the developers are using, right? So I don't think any of our competitors do that, but that helps larger organizations a lot because they can standardize best practices, but which is obvious and extremely important. But there's subtle thing which turns out to be even of a bigger value. As you can imagine, larger companies, there's a varying degree of AI adoption. Right. And you got your champions who are like vibe code at nights and they all know all this stuff better than I do. And then they have people who are like, And so for the people who need more guidance and more hand-holding, like there's nothing easier than just telling them, hey, here's your Zen agent, just go and run it, right? So yeah, there's a bunch. And then in terms of lessons learned, again, I shared some through my presentation, like all of those bits of the system. Remember I told you like it works as a system, not as a individual thing. Well, that was every single one of those was lesson learned. Like we didn't do this in that specific situation, we paid for it. Like we didn't do that. And it's one of those things where it could work well for what I was saying for a minute, right? I mean, maybe like, hey, it could work really well for a couple hours or a couple days, and then you're like, oh shoot. And
it doesn't work anymore. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is where some of those lessons, again, they're not 5 minutes lessons, they're more kind of like couple of weeks lessons depending on your tempo.
And hundreds of bucks actually in credits, I can imagine, because every of this stuck moment you pay and pay and pay to actually unstuck it.
Yeah, and then one thing that I did highlight it, but I want to highlight it again. It is very important because ultimately it's all about people, right? We're at the helm, and you as CTOs, VPs, you work with people. It changes hard, and that AI first kind of spec driven development is a mentally tough labor. Like for a lot of people, it's much easier to again play chess step by step and rely on your intuition because it's not necessarily dumb to play it step by step. It's because you have this big brain with a lot of experience and intuition. So it does kind of do some background estimation. But it is, I tell you, it is much harder to try to estimate things kind of several steps ahead, try to prevent the errors. But I find that it drives much better architectural decisions that have their own benefit. And then another cool thing about spec-driven development that we also observe is that without it, if you're just doing things manually, you do your best job. You're like 1 week into implementation, 1 day left. You discover that it's a wrong track. In real life, more likely than not, you'll be like, perfect is the enemy of good. I'm just gonna finish with this thing and I'm gonna ship it and I'm gonna move on to the next thing because my manager is on my back and so on and so forth. Versus with this spec-driven development, most of the effort is on the spec side. The execution side is not as mentally taxing. And so if you're written the spec and then 70% into execution, you figure out that hey, you actually missed something. You reprompt the model to adapt to change the spec. You throw away that Git branch and you just rerun the execution, and you now have a much better code. So I disagree with a lot of people who say that with AI the quality of the code drops. In our experience, with the right process and with the humans in the loop actively and with the humans thinking hard, the quality is actually better because you're building. First of all, you're thinking through all those consequences, and also AI works best on clean architecture, just like humans, right? So part of our lesson, right? We have to, pardon my French, clean some of our shit before agents could do good work for us, right? Like we needed to clean the house. We had overcomplicated microservices architecture that we simplified. We had overcomplicated repo structure that we simplified. It's kind of like with humans, and and AI in this case becomes that catalyst, if you will, to do some of those changes that sometimes you've been kind of wishing to do for the last couple of years. And now maybe, again, depending on organization, but maybe you now have an ace to talk to your CEO or CFO because, hey, the board said you got to be AI first, right? Or the CEO said you got to be AI first. Well, guys, guess what? We want to be AI first. We need to clean our own house. You can quote me on this as our
Yeah, and AI actually.
the AI expert. Good architecture makes for good AI. So you got that excuse to improve some of your legacy code.
Right. So AI actually kind of lifts up the carpet, right? To see
Yeah.
what's stored for years under that one. Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Andrei Filev from Zencoder. Thank you very much for this. Wow, that was cool. Actually, if you guys, right, do you like what Andrew said?
I
Maybe
am
I could. Yeah.
I am like really, really excited. Like Andrew, like I would love to try the tool. I know that like we have like Cursor and other tools are there. So I like to ask you a question, kind of like you to get it better understand. Like now, how does the Zencoder like repo grokking you can call it or agent workflows improve that we already get from the GitHub Copilot or Cursor? Already provide some of that.
Yeah, we can go into nuances because there is the harness itself, right? And the harness is better and whatever. But at the high level, I'll tell you a couple of things that are at this point are bigger things. They might not be as sexy, but they're big things. So first of all, again, the cost of that inference. I would much rather pay $200 than $5,000 per my engineer per month because that does add up very, very, very quickly. Not only that, but I know, as you know, we all can say that we don't care, we can spend a lot, but I don't know a lot of people who use Opus in max mode and Cursor. You all say that you're ready to pay to pay the good dollars. But everybody at that point uses Sonnet, and quite often you use Sonnet outside of max mode, which cuts the context and makes the agents really dumb. Because if after what happens in those kind of underpriced agents is that on the back end, the context is shrinked very frequently and at random moments, and that completely confuses the agent, and you don't even know the reason. You just think that the agent is dumb, right? But in reality, the underlying harness, if you will, messes up the context, and it goes wild. And that going wild, by the way, is one big reason to use the more expensive models. Because when you the metaphor I like to use is talking to an investor. They all sound smart, and they all probably read the same books. So if you just talk to them for 5 minutes, they're all going to be the same, right? But some of them are going to bring 10x returns to their limited partners, and some of them are going to bring 0. So same with the models. Like you talk to small model and big model for like 5 minutes, they all sound smart and cool. But try running long agentic trajectories for 4 hours on real complex repositories, and you will see the difference. Like in our own engineering team, there was a couple of situations where people, without their knowledge, were switched from a bigger model to cheaper, and they didn't know about it, and they did notice it. And so there is the difference in model again, which goes back to cost, which is very important. Now, if specifically speaking about differentiation beyond cost, we do have multi-repo indexing. I don't believe Copilot has it. I am absolutely confident Cursor doesn't have it. So if you drop Zencoder into any typical solution today that has like microservices and whatnot, Zencoder can answer questions around this whole product and solution. Our competitors cannot, and correspondingly, our agent can do modifications of this service that will not mess up the other services. Again, super simple to explain, and I think pretty important. Yeah, stuff like dropping agents in CI, I think is also super helpful. I don't think Cursor does that. I don't think Copilot does that. So there are those more advanced things that do add up as well.
Yes, I see that. Like, I think just to complete the loop, but I think mainly the question which I have to answer is like the CFO question: who spent what, where, and why? And I think what you're saying is that that's what you basically cap down and then use the right algorithm to save the cost.
Right,
is that true?
Yeah, we are leveraging subsidized subscriptions. So in this new launch, so if you're paying $20 to Google for Gemini or to OpenAI for ChatGPT, they have very good models that you can use on that subscription way beyond $20. Again, I give you an example of $10,000 use for $200 price. So this is not just about model optimization, right? This is you can optimize to save about 2x costs, and we can do that. We have some very cool tricks to do that. But even with 2x, you'll cut $10,000 bill to $5,000 bill, right? What I'm telling you is that there are ways to go from $10,000 bill to a $200 bill. Not as a guarantee, right? Because I cannot guarantee their limits that third-party providers like Anthropic, OpenAI, Google will give you, right? That's between them and you. But I'm telling you from practical examples of our customers and thousands of other engineers in other companies.
One last question on this is like, sorry, I'm asking this because this is very exciting for me to understand, like, how do you do the long-term memory? Because that's where, like, the orchestration agents are there, which are coming up. Like, how are you managing? Like, you created different steps and they're learning separately.
Yes, I can give you the most honest answer, and I can give you kind of AI friendly answer. The most honest answer is here. I think this is the best context management tool. I think it's freaking amazing. I don't think models are there yet. I think that's what we all get paid for. And by the way, I'm excited about this. I'm not necessarily excited about the world where we're all jobless. So that's not. I wouldn't be in this business if that was the goal. I think the business is to amplify creativity and help us ship our ideas much faster. And so that large context management and the creativity aspect of it, and being able to process from all the different sources, is where humans exceed. Yeah. And so now, in terms of agents, their best memory that has been so far discovered in engineering through trials, tribulations, and errors is to have the right structure of markdown files. And again, this is where it goes back to humans, because ultimately, at this point, there's no agent on the market that does absolutely perfect job of doing it for humans. Most of their AI first companies that I know, humans put some effort into doing that orchestration work with the help of AI. By the way, it's not manually written, right? It's agents that run deeply on your code base and generate the first draft, and that's it. Then it's agents that take those first drafts and further distill them and rearrange them and whatever. So it is AI process, but again, human is the orchestrator, and so far is the most marvelous machine to manage that that huge long-term and very nuanced context. But we could talk separately about the RAG. We've done a lot on RAG. We filed for patents. I can give you the solution for the problem that you brought up with the relevance of RAG and whatever. So we could talk for a long time on RAG. But again, the honest answer is that for engineering of complex software projects, humans have a wonderful role in making that happen.
Cool. I hope you're happy, Rohit.
Oh yeah, this is great. Like I think that right on dot. Like that's where we all have the gray cells to use for for seeing future.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much, Rohit. Artur, I know you actually interested in what Andrew said, because you are using lots of agents and everything. So maybe you have some questions, or we have to jump to your stories. Like,
actually, after the speech of Andrew, I'm thinking about to switch into Zencoder.
they would benefit a lot if you jump, because you have like amazing experience, man. All right. So thank you very much, Andrew, again, and let's jump to your story or stories, Artur, because well, the reason why I invited Artur today is because this gentleman said, well, we already have the Agentic SDLC in our company. I said, well, okay, I heard that somewhere, but what exactly do you mean? How many people do you guys have? Like 400, more or less. Whoa, sounds good. And then I realized they really stand out on the level of processes they implement, and then so I just want you to tell us. So, do you guys really have this agentic?
Yeah. So my story will be about how to adapt AI tools into your company, into your organization, and how to teach developers to use them. Because on the very start, there will be a lot of resistance from the development teams, and how you start adopting AI is really depend on what you get. Because firstly, when we started this way, we failed, and what why am I here to share you our lessons learned and our knowledge how to properly adapt AI usage into your company, into your organization. So I will guide you through how we implement adoption for dev teams, for QA teams, for BA teams, for marketing teams, and for pre-sale teams also. So the really important part is how you start this AI adoption. So because when we start it, we fail it. Why we fail it? For several reasons. First of all, we choose kind of chaotic projects without any processes. The second one, we don't measure anything. It's really valuable thing, and you
That's
need
typical what I hear, right? Yeah.
Unfortunately, but yeah. And the third one, we don't provide to our developers enough tutorials, enough workshops, enough materials how to use AI tooling. So we just drop them tools and said, please use it. This was the real mistake. After several months of this experiment, we resynced it and we made some changes. Yeah. So now
they made you the boss of this project, and you had to actually do something with that. Am I remember? Yeah.
Yeah. And the second try, so we pick one project from the start, from the scratch, and 4 projects that have previously some metrics, that have straight processes, and that have really senior teams. And we defined the metrics. So what we measured, first of all, SPI, so Schedule Performance Index. The second metric that we measure is the estimated time versus logged time in Jira. The third one is bug rate. Next one is production fix time. And the real thing that is important is when you try to adopt some AI usage, you need also to measure how much time does your engineer spend on creating prompts, how much time your engineers spending on reviewing outputs of your AI model or AI agent, and user satisfaction. User satisfaction, because not all of the tools is kind of liked by developers. And the last one is process automation rate, because not all of the tasks can be done by AI, and some of the tasks really need to like manual working. So we measure all of these metrics, and each week we take a look on these metrics and decided what to do next. So we need to stop this experiment or we need to continue. And the second thing that you should really do is educate your teams. So what we do from our side, on first we create the workshop how to properly set the cursor, because we focused only on one tool. It was the cursor, because at that point it has a lot of features. It has really a great user experience, UI, and competitors don't have enough features that the cursor. And we spent like first event that we where we gathered all our developers was how to properly migrate from other tools like JetBrains or etc. to Cursor, and about the advanced usage of Cursor. For example, how to use agent, how to use rules, how to use Cursor ignore file, create Cursor ignore files, how to rules commands, and how to use MCP servers also with Cursor. So all of this stuff, it's not obvious stuff, and we gathered our team and teach them how to do this. And next one, we conducted each week one workshop. For example, workshop how to write a backend service with Cursor, how to connect Cursor with MCP server with Figma and create UI components, or how to troubleshoot with Claude Code in connected to AWS account, and how to troubleshoot the errors that we get from production, for example. Also, another one was how to create efficient prompt to create to conduct code review, and that's what what we that how we teach our dev team. But we don't limit it only on dev team. We also teach our QA engineers how to create efficient prompts for creating test cases. And actually, for now, as I thinking, the greatest test management system is QSphere, because firstly, it's really cheap. to competitors. And the second, it has native AI integration, which can help QA engineers to create checklists, to create test cases, to create low-level test cases, detailed, high-level test cases, and the great feature that it even can create test cases based only on screenshot of your design, which is really great. But not all our customers use this QA sphere, and some of them use their own test management system. And for that customers, we teach our QA engineers how to create, for example, in ChatGPT, a custom agent based not only only on requirements, but also we provided additional context for domain specific, for test design techniques, and for validation rules, for example, as additional context. And based on this additional context, it is more we get more accuracy in creating these cases. About marketing teams, so before our marketing teams, they gather all of the information like in manual way, like opening the site, copy pasting some information, and blah blah blah. So we learn them how to connect Claude to Playwright MCP server and just type in the prompts what they need, and all of the dirt stuff, I would say, we'll do this Claude with Playwright.
So, yeah, I have a question here. Yeah, if you don't mind. So, actually, metrics and learning.
Yeah, it's
those two pillars or whatever.
Yeah.
And two questions on that. How do you guys collect those metrics from all those processes? Do you use any AI powered tools or just Jira and everything? And
actually, for creating for collecting metrics from Jira, we created like the script that collect all of the logged time from Jira by API. So it was automated, just a Python script. For user experience, we made the surveys every week.
Okay, I see.
So
and
this is,
yeah, thank you for sharing. And the second question was, you started to teach your engineers how to use quite obvious things.
It's not obvious, man. It's not obvious.
That's the question for me, because on the one side, I understand that actually give the engineer 2 days. Don't overload with some projects, and they will figure out, right? But on the other hand, as Andrew mentioned, actually people push back, and probably this learning was like part of conveniencing process or whatever. How would it work? Yeah, please elaborate on that.
Why people resist? Because they don't know how to use. And like the typical way of resistance was, I tried something and it gave me shit, so I don't believe that it could be
of course better. No one will tell you I'm too lazy to learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. And you should provide this guidance to these guys. You should teach them how to properly create the prompt, because there is a lot of techniques how you may create this prompt. You should teach them how to create, again, these cursor rules, because it's really powerful thing. You should you should teach them how to create, for example, commands, because it is, again, it's a really great thing. And again, when you show by examples how you may do this work, people adapt this. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Okay, thank you very much. And but when we spoke with you, you mentioned that you extended literally every role in your SDLC with AI tools, and you have sort of process of experimenting with different tools. Can you share about that? That's an interesting one.
We investigated a lot of tools, and for now, our company used mainly as main EDE is Cursor. For code review, we use CodeRabbit with CodeRabbit or Claude Code. For BA processes, for creating requirements, we use ChatPRD. This is really, again, one of the greatest tools that we saw. For QA, as I mentioned, we use QSphere. Marketing teams use Claude plus MCP server with Playwright. The one thing that is great, also I forgot to mention, is about our pre-sales team. Because for pre-sales, the really thing where pre-sale team struggle is estimating some stuff, because it takes a lot of time. And what we did, we create the custom ML model that helps estimate projects based on the keywords, based on the features. So we gathered around 100 previous pre-sales and projects. We gather all of this data. We and created our custom ML model that was based on this actual data. And now our pre-sales teams actually use this ML model for estimating, and it's really great stuff.
How it exactly works? Because like I'm an entrepreneur, I want to know more about that part. So at what part do they use it, during sales calls or during
after the sale call, after the client sent us RFP, for example, after that, we may create a high level of user stories, then said to this AI model, like made a work breakdown structure for these user stories and estimated. And this is
cool.
You have 2 minutes, and you get 100 or 200 of user stories estimated for backend, frontend, mobile, and QA.
I hope it counts well. Because
absolutely. Because our architects reviewing it and providing feedback.
So human is always in the loop or in charge. Yeah, the last thing I would love to ask you about is, yes, tooling, but you mentioned that like market is evolving always and constantly, and new tools coming up. How can you be sure that you are using the perfect tooling or the best tooling on the market, and how do you evaluate, and then probably you change your courses and learning and everything?
You need definitely R&D department for it. You need to try all of the competitors. You need to try a lot of tools, and you need to gather the feedback from your engineers, because they are the first line of adoption.
Okay. Thank you very much. So thank you for sharing. The reason I was so surprised to hear like all this structured actually picture from you, because I spoke with more than 100 engineering managers. Lots of people speak about AI-powered SDLC and stuff, but when you ask something specific, that doesn't actually. Oh well, we're trying. We have idea or something, but you guys have these processes. And did you mention you record all these videos, video lessons, or how do you work?
It is in internal usage only, so we are not posting it on external usage. We have a learning management system in our organization where this course is recorded, and every developer when they are starting a new project, they should go to this course and finish it. It takes around 2 days to finish it, but it's really valuable. Yeah.
Okay. So if I am your engineer and I'm onboarding on some new project, and maybe I'm the new, so you given me 2 days actually of my salary to learn all this AI experiment. Wow.
It is our investment in learning, in teaching. Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you hear we need to be AI first, that's what means to be AI first. Like,
Yeah, you need
investing
to
in
teach people. Without it, you are nothing. You will spend a lot of money and you will get no results. You need to teach people because
Yeah.
it's new tool, it's new approach, it's completely different approach for creating software. You need to teach people how to do it.
Yeah.
This is responsibility of top management.
Can you feel this heart, the heart of this manager? He's with his people, inside of the situation, like not letting them down. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this. And yeah, guys, if you have questions about those processes to Artur, please go ahead. Rohit, Andrew.
Wow, this is great. So, I mean, I think one thing which I see from you is like, you're using some of the tools for product management. I think that's something which you mentioned.
Chat PRD, yes.
What's the chat PRD?
Yes. It's called chat PRD.
Mm-hmm. And then when you're getting these requirements, does it also take into account, how does that work? Like, what's the ingestion flow works like? Because it's always a funnel. Like, do you do double diamond, or like, I mean, some companies do double diamond or like some other way to do that. So what's your approach on like, getting the ideation to fruition?
Again, first of all, we need to create the data that we will feed with to chart PRD. So for our approaches, first of all, it's domain specific knowledge. Second, we should always include like additional validation rules and the template for the user stories or requirements that you expect to get as outcome. So this is the three pillars that we have.
How did you create the DSL?
Sorry?
How did you create the DSL? Domain specific language or domain specific knowledge?
No, we don't create domain specific language. We post it in a plain text. Yeah.
Okay, put it in the plain text, and then how these validation rules are guardrailed across all these tools.
When we create a test, let's start from the beginning. When you create the user requirements, you add this validation rule as additional context. Then, again, this validation rules is stored somewhere in Confluence, for example, in one page. Then when you create, for example, implementation of backend services, you provide these validation rules in cursor rules. So when you use cursor, you may add the additional context for creating prompt, like set to cursor, like use these rules for creating some of the service. And you put these validation rules in a markdown file, call it, for example, dot cursor validation rules, .md. Then when you create the test cases for it, you also provide these validation rules to context of, for example, ChatGPT custom agent. So this goes through all of the process.
I see what you're saying, and then Andrew, like on the similar line, like you can ask on the similar question. Is it something the same validation rule can be used for Zencoder?
Yeah, we support our rules. We also support cursor rules for interoperability. We support right now multiple agents have different default initialization prompts called Agents MD, Claude MD, Gemini MD. We support those as well. So yeah, it's part of that. I think of it as DevOps supporting kind of traditional software development lifecycle. I don't know the better term, but there's modern organizations need kind of AI DevOps, right? They need that structure that helps onboard engineers and that helps quote unquote onboard agents. The only difference is you kind of onboard human once, as opposed to for agents it's 50 first dates. Like every run is a brand new world. So you gotta make sure they stay on track, and the context is much more limited. Like for human, you can give them continuous download, as you said, long-term memory, as opposed to agents. You better fit it all, right. Like say in about 50,000 tokens. They're all a much longer context, right? Like typical 200,000, and there's Sonnet for and Gemini for 1 million tokens. But in real world, I think your all instructions and all context and all rules benefit in about 50,000 tokens. If you go beyond that, more likely than not, you're not given model. It's going to start getting confused on longer trajectories.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, one question I had to you, Artur, also: do you think these new ideas are actually limiting possibilities and options? Because when you are in VS Code, you can connect everybody there, right? So anyone, and you just switch between, I don't know, Zencoder to Amazon Q or GitHub Copilot, and then back if you want. But when you are on Coursera or any, I don't know, Windsurf, I believe they also have their own ID, right? So
Yeah.
don't you think it limits you? Because I see this trend in social media, and I speak with people. They say, "Well, I move back.
I love Artur perspective, but I'll jump here as well. So I think there are two different audiences. So one is professional engineers, and professional engineers, for example, in enterprise, there's a lot of C# Java developers, and they do not like Cursor because Java developers like JetBrains, and C# developers need Microsoft native tools because Microsoft does not give good C# support for Cursor for obvious reasons. So for that segment of developers, I think tool like Zencoder that works with existing IDEs is much better. And then there's kind of the opposite. If you're like vibe coder and you just need a single download, then from that perspective, single download would work better. But I think those people are getting even better luck with like Lovable or Replit or something like in the browser, where they don't even need to download anything like there. It's all taken care of, right? So I think that's. And then there's people in there in the middle, like Python, JavaScript. Those folks
absolutely.
less.
Yeah, absolutely. In our company, actually, the most percentage of developers is JavaScript and Python, actually. So obviously, our choice was the Cursor because it's really fits into our needs. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Right. And Rahul, Basu.
Hi.
Hello. How are you, bro?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm having fun, actually. So smart people in my stream today, and I feel like I'm at the big boys table, you know. Right. Yes, and let me introduce Rahul Basu, the engineering manager from Warner Brothers, from HBO platform. I remember you told me that you were like from the very beginning. Tell us more about your role and then the story. I remember that brilliant story about this, about testing, of course, but shift left, shift right, shift everywhere. So what happens from your perspective? Yeah,
Right.
tell
I
us
think,
more. Yeah.
I think the agenda of my talk would be with me and Ed chiming in, and it's more about how all these amazing tools that you guys are developing and that we talked about for the last, let's say, 2 hours, how it's going to affect teams, right? Like how it's going to affect engineering teams. The normal structure of an engineering team is around 8 people, because that's the size of a normal sprint team. So how would it affect a junior developer, a senior developer, a principal developer, and eventually would there be junior developers who would be required? Because obviously junior developer can actually do a mid-level work right now with either of the tools. It could be a GPT, it could be using Cursor. So that's the primary premise of my talk. And the second thing is about how Q&A is gradually being automated, because be it Lovable, be it Cursor, the first thing we can write is unit tests, right? So unit integration test. So all of those would essentially be able to automate a lot of the QA process, which means there'd be less people required for engineering, there'd be less people required for QA, and a person with skill, because all of the products that we discussed, right, they require one single thing, which is a software engineer. Now, none of these products can actually like even if it's no code product, eventually you'll get stuck if you're not a coder, right? So it means that software engineering skill set is definitely helpful in whatever capacity, but these tools will help you with all these tools that are coming out, right? That will help you become a better version of software engineer, and you can really like jump the levels, because even if you're like a senior software engineer, you can pretty much write an architecture with Claude if you know what is to be written, right? So you need to know the technologies. For example, if it's microservices, if it's a multi-agent architecture. So you need to know a multi-agent architecture, and you would have either seen it as a developer, as a mid-level developer or a junior developer, doesn't matter. If you've seen it, you know how the structure works, right? So that being like the way architecture could be developed. So a junior engineer or a mid-level engineer could potentially work at the efficiency. If they have seen that kind of a code base, they could potentially work at higher levels in the leveling structure that we have. The second thing that
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I have a question on that. Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing, obviously, is how much of that task can be automated. For example, DevOps. A lot of DevOps tasks can be automated by two things. One is a tool that can be integrated, and second, obviously, is just like being able to research on the fly, right? So if you can get a context of your code base. And now I think big companies have allowed Cursor to be used because they really had privacy concerns about their code bases. But I guess they understood that GitHub anyways has all the code base. They're launching a Copilot, so let's just allow GitHub Copilot. So those concerns are gone now. So on a day-to-day basis, every software engineer in a big company, in a big organization, already has access to all these tools that they can use. So that increases the efficiency. Maybe not to write code, but to like do DevOps tasks, to research more, even just the chat bit, right? Like you have in Cursor, you can pretty much ask about what this part of the code base does. So all you do is you put the context there, and you can, you learn on the fly. Previously, we would have to like set up a call with another teammate, all those coffee chats, right? So now we don't need to do those. So the question is then, do we need such big software engineering teams? Because if you are two times more efficient, then the team size comes down, and which is why we would see a lot of these companies. I think there's a famous name that's being thrown around called Lovable, and it's a good company because it has like 70 people, and it's $1 billion company. So it's possible to do that, right? Irrespective of how they've done it, but it's possible to do that. So that means that the software engineering teams are gonna essentially compress. QA would work in a very different way. Previously, in our sprints, we always had software engineering, and there would be that column in our Jira, right, where we would put it for testing. So right now, a lot of that testing could be done yourself, right? That makes teams much smaller. That makes teams much more efficient, because for every person, it's easier to work with less people, right? Which is why startups are one of the most favorite places for engineers to work. But another thing, obviously, is the fact that software engineer still is the king, right? In an engineering team. And the more this goes ahead, I feel this entire AI revolution, software engineer being automated, I still sort of don't buy that. If anyone feels otherwise, please feel free to like obstruct or put in a question. But there was this whole narrative around that. Yeah. Go ahead.
And yeah. That's what I hear. That from the very beginning, it was only the software engineer. Then we have 1,000 roles in SDLC, and now this coming back to like software engineer and some other guys. Yes, and the developer's role is kind of wider and wider and eating up like other roles. Tell us what happened to your QA department.
Yeah, so a lot of it is automated through something called device labs, because we run on very different devices, different TVs across the world, different geographies, different content in those geographies, different legislations. So testing it is very hard, because you never know what someone's seeing for that exact feature push what someone's seeing on a 35-inch screen versus someone, in a Marriott, you have these set-top boxes, right? So you would have the app working there.
Yeah,
So it's very tough.
just to remind to our audience, we're talking about HBO, the
Max,
platform for streaming. Yeah.
Max, yeah. So so that's why the device labs is a really good place to see that, and a lot of times human errors are not noticed that well. So that was a really good move because we couldn't really automate all sizes of TVs, right? Like, it's very hard for every sprint to be like really tested across all sizes of TVs or even computer laptop. But laptops have come down to like 15-inch or 16-inch. So that's
I have some Samsung TV on my on my wall, and it's absolutely different iOS. Operating system than iOS, right? So it's very. So I can imagine you guys messing up with that.
Yeah,
testing
and
stuff.
then obviously there are people who have those Fire Sticks, right? Different low budget OS or different low budget devices that they put in a TV, which could be like from 7 years ago, right? So the performance there, because it's about CPU, GPU. The moment you press the button left, right, you go to the search, it's about really being able to use the CPU, GPU resources. So you have like really fancy OLED TV, and one end of the spectrum, and the other one is obviously like TVs from 5 years, 10 years ago, which were like 27 inches. So there's some in like Latin American countries where you have those resale TVs that eventually go there, right? So anyways, so coming back to the solution was to get something like a device lab where we write automated tests, but it runs on an actual device. So when it runs on an actual device, we can actually track crashes, or it can like actually simulate what the QA would do. Although it doesn't do that, which is why we still have like amazing QA people. But the point is that we wanted to reduce the number of reduce the team size, and it's always the software engineer who's given that extra load. That okay, now you need to write integration tests for this entire thing, and all of these extra tools that are coming out, be it like QA, because there's someone who's developing QA for products like no-code products, right? So how do you even test that? Because they have a strict structure. They would only ship React Node no matter what you do, right? So you can't change the stack. And at the same time, using a boilerplate is like going back in time. So obviously, no-code products, without any name drop, no-code products help you like get really fast ahead in that sort of feature development. But that feature is probably not feature complete, right? So there are people who are stuck in that loop, and how do you come out of it? The only way is to like chat on the product. So obviously solving QA for those things, because essentially if you want to actually like, it's mostly used by early stage companies at this point of time. But if you want to really keep it as part of your ecosystem as you grow, I think you need to add testing. You need to be able to add it to like a micro services or micro, whatever the architecture is, right? Like bigger architectures. So that we don't know how that's going to happen, but hopefully that can eventually be done, or else you would one day throw the code away and write your own. So that's then a software engineering skill set problem, because you didn't have enough great software engineers to be able to write a dashboard or a landing page. So you decide to use no code for now. Might as well have used another drag and drop product. So anyways, so coming back to the thing, like the whole point is that I think software engineers are going to be more important. And I myself, I've started understanding my own code base much better through these tools. So kudos to everyone who's like building amazing products. I'm not building, really AI specific developer driven products, but it is definitely making my life easier. Right. And I think it's the same for every other domain. Like people are building in law tech, people are building in DevOps. I think DevOps can be totally automated, just like finance bookkeeping is being automated, right? But obviously finance wouldn't, like legal, for example, you need a lawyer to see the contract. I can't draft a contract on ChatGPT. It's, I can, because ChatGPT would give an answer, but that answer is probably wrong. Or I would miss something that has a lot of
You can generate it, but you never want to sign it blindly. You want to show it to lawyer because, well, it will cost it. So what I hear from you is, specifically from your experience, you see how developers actually write tests, and you need much less QA engineers in your team, right? So developers actually deploy, and you need less DevOps people in your organization. So
Exactly.
yeah, so
I mean, I would say my organization, but in general, I would say that's a
in
trend.
general,
That's
yeah,
happening.
okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So there's a trend that would happen, which is obviously automating all of these, and that's why all these startups or even bigger companies, they're coming up with individual tools that can really help that part of the process. So when Claude came out, obviously people thought that everything can be automated, but the moment I started writing a part of the code, I realized that obviously the changes need to be lesser. I can't tell Claude that, okay, just go for it and write up the whole code base. Because one of the things that happens in a software engineering team is there's a certain language, there's a common language or a common methodology of writing code in that team, right? So when you join that team, when you sort of work on the PRs, read PRs, and you understand what's happening, somewhere in your subconscious, that process gets embedded, right? So Claude or any other company would write based on what it thinks is a good way to write a unit test. So unit test is a really good example because it has almost like zero effect. So yeah. I think that you can't take that thing away, but at the same time, if the software engineer becomes more resource intensive, they can potentially work at a much higher output.
All right. Thank you. And any other thoughts on role evolving? Because as we heard from Andrew, I believe you were from the beginning, right? You heard the Andrew's speech. So he said that this spec-driven development is very important, but I don't know if we're a startup, right? We don't have too many BAs actually who will write it for us. So I have to figure out somehow with AI probably how to actually create all these specs and then feed it up to AI. So it's not only the evolving on functions, but also on the way how we actually develop.
Yeah, so the way we develop, yeah, exactly. So how do we break down the work, right? When a new feature comes in, how do we really break it down into different chunks or tickets or sprints, right? Like how do we break down the work over time?
Even earlier, because we heard about that chat PRD and AI that actually helps with feature request and all these specifications. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that can't be automated, right? So you need to talk to the other teams. So obviously, in a big organization, you're working across like 5 different teams at the same time. So their priority is also your priority, because once they ship a part of that new feature that will work with your part of the product, you need to ship that. So all of that planning is quite manual and requires quite a lot of experience and discussion. And then obviously the guy who would delegate work to another 5 or 7 engineers or 10 engineers, they would not need to delegate a lot of that, because obviously the person who's in that meeting and talking to other teams has the best context of what needs to be developed, right? So if you can delegate that work to 3 people and get the job done, then obviously you would want to have less people on your team, which basically means that you're more efficient as a software engineering team, and you can go ahead much faster. So, yeah.
And yeah, thank you. And what's your experience actually to shift it, to change how people work, how they think, how they interact? You can't just come and say, "Hey guys, now we don't have any QAs, DevOps, or BAs or anyone else or designers. Now you are doing all the shit." So it's insane. So what's your experience how to implement all this transformation changes in an organization?
Yeah, one is obviously training those individual people to use it and getting on a common ground. So, for example, everyone uses VS Code in a certain team, or everyone uses JetBrains IDE. So, the same way, I think eventually people will come to that common consensus that, hey, as this team, we're going to use this model that's working for us. And when you're adding more code, it needs to essentially not just be code that you've written, it should be potentially a combination of both. Startups have already started doing it, which is why you would see like 3 people startup, 9 people startup are potentially a $5 million funded company, right? I know some companies that are like seed funded, which is 3-4 million, and they only have like 9 people and 4 engineers, right? So they're getting the job done. That's my point. So the way they're doing it is obviously using much more efficient tools, and in that context, you are being able to develop more feature faster with more accuracy, and instead of paying the person, you're probably paying the AI or the company itself. So yeah, you would see like smaller teams doing a lot of work. Like you don't need 200, 300 people team like anymore for that particular feature or that particular division. And I mean 300 engineers, and that reduces to something like 100 engineers, right? Which means less engineering managers, less people management, less QAs as well. So we see all of that resource efficiency.
Yeah, and unfortunately, less jobs. That's what we see on the market. It's not that easy to find job right now. It's not that easy to secure and stay at the same place. We see all these massive layoffs. And what would you suggest as manager to those who wants to stay or they want to leave or whatever? How to build a career now? What to learn? How to grow?
So I think people who are above mid engineer level, which is senior level and above, I think the market is amazing for them because they would still find jobs, right? The problem is primarily with entry level engineers because once you have like that demand supply mismatch, you would always find engineers with experience, and you would always take engineers with experience, right? So those are individual optimizations that companies can do now. So people who are 10 years of experience or more, or just if you look at the job descriptions, right, like ones that are out there, easily all of them are like 8 years of experience, 5 years of experience. So if you're less than 5 years of experience, good luck. I don't know what that's going to happen. Maybe that's the market that's having a bigger trouble. But if you're somewhere around 8 years of experience, you're living in a golden period because then you are important. You're going to build a lot of stuff yourself. And since the team is lesser, what happens then is you are quite important to the team, right? Because if the team size is lesser, that means your role or your importance increases. So because you own more features or you develop more part of the product, because there's no like cross or overlap between different individuals.
So what you're saying is, if you are middle plus or senior engineer, don't worry, you're good.
Yeah, don't worry.
Don't worry. Yeah, that's a great news. Thank you very much. Probably that was the best thing I heard on that stream.
Yeah. Otherwise, don't worry. Anyways, it's good. I think market is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And but the bad news is if you're under 5 years, how to not get fired, or maybe you should leave first and find some startup or start a new venture, or what's your ideas here?
I think case by case it matters. Again, any company would hire a person with more experience than less experience. It's just the reality of things, right? So however you want to be able to portray that, it could be GitHub stars, it could be I don't know, having a small YouTube channel somewhere. Whatever makes you stand out really helps your profile. And believe it or not, the job interview process has not changed. It's still the same since 2019, 2020. It's still an assignment, still a technical round of interview, behavioral, the same sort of 3-step process. So The process hasn't changed. What has changed is probably the pool of candidates. Now, the roles have also a little bit changed because a lot of startups are looking for people who know front end, back end, and AI. And bigger companies still have that distinction that, hey, you know what, we're going to have those distinct teams, front end, back end, AI, or whatever, right? Like DevOps. So division wise, they're very different. So if you're looking for a job in a startup, then you would have to choose between one of those because they would ask everything, right? Like they would potentially want someone who knows more of those languages or more of those skills than people who know less. But a bigger company would perhaps be more like, how good are you at this? And we need to get this job done. But we rely on you because of your experience or because of what you've shaped. So a bigger company would most likely go with a person who's a safer bet rather than someone who knows more and then be like, you come to our platform. Because bigger companies like for example Meta or bigger this tech giants, they have their own languages and you still need to learn that, right? So having external experience doesn't necessarily convert there, but having the ability to learn better or deliver a better product has better outcome or is a better signal for bigger company. For a smaller company, it could be more like, how many different things can you know, because we're gonna let you develop like 50% of the product at this point in time, because they don't want to increase the team size.
Wow. So what I hear is, if you're kind of middle and lower level of experience, go and learn more stack. Go and try out some side hustle with AI and everything. So kind of improve your skill set dramatically fast.
Yeah.
Right. So if even you are in a big company and you're doing only the Angular and that's it, okay, you might be in trouble in future. So if you will have wider stack, more diverse, you're kind of more secure for the future. And yeah, that's a good advice. Good advice. Thank you very much, and I'll try to spread it out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Rahul Basu here with us from HBO. And by the way, I remember you mentioned any other things you are interested in, something with models, AI models for video or whatever, or you are not ready to share yet?
No, at this moment.
All right,
I
all
think
right.
we'll do it. Next
Okay,
time.
I will cut it out from our stream. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm pushing button end stream now. And yeah, thank you very much to everyone who was here with us today. CTO Global Summit is something you definitely need to pay attention to.
Right.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
And the stream